Hello, hello, my friend. It is good to see you. I am excited whether you are joining me via replay or live. It is good to be with you here. We are starting the second half of the year. Can you even believe it? Time feels like it's just flying by to me. But yep, today is actually July 1st. So we are officially in the second half of the year. So I wanted to come to you today to talk about goals and achieving your goals. So whether you are joining live or on replay, would you pop in the comments hello and tell me where you're joining from? I'll just introduce myself. We have several new people that have joined us lately. We have a Facebook group, Small Business Finance Simplified, for small business owners, as well as a YouTube channel. So my name is Christy Varner. I'm a 25-year CPA, and I am a profitability strategist and virtual CFO for clients. I also have a course for financial foundations to help small business owners get set and build their confidence and competence in that area, because I believe so strongly in this, you guys. I am so cheering you on, and I know that this stuff matters. So I am here in Texas. I just realized I asked you to tell me where you were from. So please do tell me where you're from. I am here in Texas, and it is actually not 1 million degrees here today, which is crazy because it's the middle of summer. So usually it is 1 million degrees, but I'm thankful that it's a little bit cooler than that. So anyway, I want to dive right in today. We are going to talk about 3 steps to achieve your end of year goals. So by the end of this, you are going to walk away with 3 actionable steps that you can sit down and map out a plan so that you can achieve your goals for the year. How does that sound? I'm thinking pretty good. I need to do it myself. So I'm just talking to myself. This is one of my favorite topics, is goal setting and goal achieving with my clients. So I thought I'd bring it here to you guys today. So the first step. So there's 3 steps. So if you are a note taker, this is the time to get out your iPad. If you're like me, I use an iPad for all my notes. So if you see me glance down, it's because I have notes, or your pen and paper. Or you can just watch this again if you want. But seriously, they're so simple. You know me. I'm all about simple. So we're going to talk about these 3 steps. And I'm going to use an analogy because I always use analogies. Do you guys like analogies? Doesn't it make it simpler? Like, I am so about, like, let's just talk about real life. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that also relates to this business thing we're talking about. So we're going to talk about driving across the country. So I told you guys, I'm here in the Dallas area. So let's just pretend that I'm going to go on a car trip, and I am going to go from Dallas, where I am, to New York City, which is one of my very favorite places. I haven't been there in far too long with all that's been happening in the last year and a half, but it just is a place that I feel really at home. And I don't know, I love the vibe of that city. So I would love to hear, is there a city that you just love the vibe of, that you're always happy when you visit? I think the beach is another place for me. But so anyway, so join me as you envision yourself trying to go with me. We're going to go from Dallas to New York. So this would be part of how, a lot of this is similar to how we would goal set, period. But a little bit different right now because we're doing a mid-year review. So let me know in the chat if you've done a mid-year review before, or if this is a new concept for you. Most people haven't necessarily done a mid-year review because it's just not as common. But this applies to your personal and your business life. So it's great because you can use it in either one. So assuming that we are driving across the country from Dallas to New York, the first step is to know where you're going, right? So in this instance, we know that we're headed to New York City. So the first step for you is to write down what those goals were that you were trying to achieve for the year. What were the goals that you set? Do you remember those goals? Oftentimes we set these goals in January or December, right before the new year. And then honestly, they're kind of like New Year's resolutions. They sort of get forgotten. And as small business owners, it's usually not forgotten because we're lazy and just sitting around watching Netflix all day. Small business owners are the scrappiest, like hardworking group of people. That's why I love working with you, because I just love that. and you're making the world go round and employing all the people and just anyway. But it's not because you're not trying. I know it's because you're busy. You're just focusing on, running your business and blah, blah, blah. So the first thing to do, step one, is to write down what your goals were. Okay. So whether that means that you've got to go back out and grab your papers from January, find that sticky note wherever you wrote it. For some of you, you know exactly what your goals were. And I love that. I love that you know exactly what your goals were. Some of you don't have any goals. Like for whatever reason, you have never really been into goal setting, or you just didn't do it this year or whatever. So if you didn't do that, then set your goals for success. So what I tell people when we are setting goals, like at the beginning of the year, and I'll address the people that already have them in a minute. But so when we're setting these goals at the beginning of the year, you need to define what success looks like for you. Okay. So you'll hear the acronym SMART. So it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So, if you're not familiar with that, look that up or watch another video. I've done lots of videos on goals because, like I said, I love goals. But so you want to set a goal that you can kind of measure to know that you got there. But it's got to be your goal. Your goal, not society's goal, not what you think it should be, not what, your spouse or your mom or whomever's idea of success is. It's really got to be yours. And you'll have long-term goals, and then you'll have shorter-term goals to get there for the next year. So anyway, so for those of you that did set your goal already in January, bravo to you, because I'm a firm believer that if we plan to fail, if we fail to plan, we're planning to fail. So it's a great exercise to get into. And like I said, you can jump in right now if you haven't. But if you did, I want you to write down the goals that you did write in January. Okay. So I'm not saying let's just say that you said, my goal was to have revenue of, $150,000 this year, and you're sitting at 20,000 right now. So you're like, well, Christy, I'm not putting that on my goal list because obviously I'm not going to get there. This is not an assessment right now. This is just write down the goals as you laid them out at the beginning of the year, because you laid them out at the beginning of the year for a reason. Okay. So write down all those goals. Okay. So that's essentially, in our analogy, that's our New York City. We have defined what our goals are. Okay. Our goals, in theory, should get us excited. So we're going to talk about that, because maybe now I don't really want to go to New York City anymore. I want to go to Washington, D.C., right? Or I don't want to take as long of a trip. I want to just go to the beach. Okay. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But so step 2 in this analogy, if I'm trying to go to New York City, I have to know where I am now. Okay. So I started in Dallas and I'm headed to New York City. And now I find myself in Kansas. Okay. So it's mid-year and I'm in Kansas. So that's step 2. Figure out where you are now. Okay. So where are you now in your business, or if you're using this for personal goals, that's getting real with yourself. Okay. We are actually going to look at the numbers. I know it's only July the 1st, but it's time to get caught up on your bookkeeping for the first half of the year. If you haven't done that, I strongly encourage you to do that. You can change so much in the next 6 months. So being in the habit of having monthly financial statements provides so much golden insight to get you where you want to go. So let's go ahead and close out that first half of the year, because this is when you have to get real with yourself. You have to measure those numbers. We can only know that you're only at $20,000 on your $150,000 goal if you have a way to track that, right? Maybe your goal is a profit goal. Maybe your goal is the number of clients that you want to have, or the number of people that you want to impact. There are all sorts of different goals that you could have had, but whatever that is, I want you to write that down. And then I want you to figure out where you are relative to that goal. Okay. So if your business is not seasonal, then percentages really help, because in theory, you would be at 50%, right? I would be 50% of the way on my trip from Dallas to New York City. Okay. So looking at the percentage that you're complete. So if you're, 20% complete, you just write it down. If you're 80% complete, you write it down. If you're 100% complete, whatever it is, there's no judgment here, but we are trying to just be sort of like data, right? Like actually, it's kind of like if you wanted to lose 10 pounds, then, the data would be I've lost 2 or I've lost 7 or whatever, because that's what you do. Okay. So that's where we are now. So that was step 2. That one's it sounds easy, but I know that if you have not been keeping your finances up to date, it is not the simplest thing, but you need to. I just finished teaching my course on small business financial foundations, and it just reiterated for me over and over again how cool the insights are that you can get when you have that data. So please, please invest in accounting tools, accounting software. Do the bookkeeping yourself, DIY it. You absolutely can. Watch some of my videos. I teach how to do that for free, or hire a bookkeeper. We'd be happy to help you at Victory Advisory Services, but there are lots of places. So you just want to find a way to get it done. Doesn't matter how you do it, just get it done. So step 2, like we talked about, is knowing where you are now. So assess that. Step 3 is the longest part of the process, because that's where you take where you're going and where you are, and you have to map out a plan to get there. So I'm going to go through a few steps in this last step, if you will, of mapping out a plan. So if we were driving in the car from Dallas to New York on January 1st, right, I would have gotten out my phone and gone to Waze or, Google Maps and put it in, and it will show me several different routes. Okay. So that's how we do the goal setting in driving from somewhere. We see the different routes and we assess things. So very similar in our business, there are a lot of different routes that you can take to achieve your goals. And the thing to do is to figure out what they are. So now I'm in Kansas. We're halfway through the year. So now I know where I am because you have that measurement. So this is the time to assess. This is the time, I call it the get real time. So you need to assess where you are relative to your goal, and why is that? What are the actions that you've been taking? Have you really, write it all down. Like if you have a goal of, helping 20 clients, then write down everything you did to try to get to those 20 clients. And it's just between you and you, right? Like I work with my clients on this, on my coaching clients, but you want to be real with yourself. Like maybe you've done a million things and it just hasn't worked, or you're like, oh, this is going to pay off. Or maybe you're like, time to get real with myself. I set that goal, but I really wasn't putting in the effort, or I wasn't putting in the right effort. This is the time. You only hurt yourself if you don't do this get real part. Okay. So we're going to get real with ourselves and really assess. You may also find that when you're doing that, when you're evaluating like, oh, I'm only 20% to the goal, it may be because the goal is no longer relevant for you. Okay. Just like anything in life, what we plan, and this is why I work with my clients every month, because if we only set a budget at the beginning of the year and then we're like, that's it, it's got to go that way. Well, that doesn't work. I mean, let me know if your business works exactly as you plan, because I doubt it. I doubt it. Or at least not for me and not for my clients. So just like when you get in the car and you map out that plan, right? Then there's an accident, or there's road construction, or a road closure, or whatever, right? A parade running through the middle of town that you're driving through. That's exactly how life works. And it's how our businesses work too. You get to times when you need to pivot or think things through again. So this is the time that you assess, is this still a goal that makes sense for my business? Is this still a goal that makes sense for my business? So this last step, it's the steps to get from Kansas to New York, is where I go, is New York still the right destination for me? Now, just because I'm not, 50% of the way there, doesn't mean I'm not going to keep that as a goal, right? You guys, you will be amazed how much work can get done in 6 months if we go for it and we start really mapping it out. So don't just throw it away because you haven't been doing well. We may still be able to get there, and think how proud you'll be of yourself. And you'll go so much further by having a goal. But if you have assessed that this is no longer a relevant goal for your business, this is the time to get real with yourself and be like, okay, that's not a good goal. What's a different goal that I should be setting? Okay. So that's the get real with yourself, where you analyze, what have you been doing towards that? So now let's just say you have your goals and we are back on that route, right? Of we want to get to New York. So regardless of whether you are at 20%, if you're at 90%, you might want to increase that goal, right? I'm just telling you, like, you can do a lot more. So don't ever set your goals way too low, because, it's fun to achieve our goals, but also they're motivating. But so in this last step, you need to get from where you are to where you're trying to go. And this is the hardest part for a lot of people, because it's overwhelming. And I understand that, because I've been working on my own goals too. So what works for me is Rachel Hollis taught an idea called idea soup. And you essentially just take a blank piece of paper and you write down every single idea that you have. No judgment. You just write it all down, like just blank piece of paper, blank page on your iPad, and you just write and write and write. And this is actually something you can do with your accountability group, with, a good friend that knows a lot about your business, whatever. So you can just write this all down, and you can do this like with each other to help each other, just to get ideas, because there's no judgment about whether or not this is good. So if I was trying to get from Kansas to New York, I could write down, go via Canada, go via Florida, go straight across, go in a hot air balloon, go in a plane, get on a bus, rent a car, right? All these things, because my mode of getting there may change. Now, how does this translate to your business? Well, this may be where you would write down different service offerings that you could offer. If your goal is a revenue goal, these are the different services or products that I could offer. This is what is profitable. Like when you're looking at your step 2, where am I? You're looking at your services and like, oh, wow, like this product A is way more profitable than product B. So it will get me there so much faster, right? Because data provides so much insight. I know that some of you think like, oh, numbers are boring, but I promise you, the numbers may bore you, but what they can tell us to get you there faster to achieve your goals, so worth it. So worth it, you guys. I just love it. So we are going to wrap this up, but that's what you're going to do, is take these steps. And what I encourage you to do, you write down all your idea soup, you go back and you look at that big paper and you're like, okay, yeah, but now I have all these ideas. So you look at your paper and you decide which are the most logical ones that will help me get there. Which are the ones that I can, seem easy enough to do. They seem like they would work. They're not something that I'm going to hate so much that I won't do it, or that, my job will be terrible, because there are, things that we could do, but you won't actually do it if you just absolutely hate it. Although keep in mind, sometimes short-term hard is worth it for long-term goal, right? So I'm not saying this is going to be a walk in the park, right? It's, it's hard work to be a small business owner, but we do want to have fun and enjoy it too. So as you're doing that, you want to plan celebrations along the way, right? So plan this out in steps. Don't say, I'm going to get from Kansas to New York. Plan out, I'm going to go from Kansas to Ohio, and in Ohio, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to spend the night, and so in the same regard, set milestones to get from where you are to where you're trying to go. So you've figured out some plans to do it. Now, say you want to get to 150,000 in revenue, then you're setting out like, okay, well then logically, if I'm at 20, I want to be at 50 at this date. Actually calendar it. Actually calendar a date. You'll be amazed. Tell people, write it down every day. Look at these goals. Look at these steps. Reassess these. things we write down, we're so much more likely to achieve. Things we tell people about, we're so much more likely to achieve. Do you have an accountability partner? Do you have an accountability group? Let me know. In fact, I would love for you to tell me what goals you set. Send me a direct message and tell me what goals you set. That's accountability. It will really force you to do it. And I would love to hear and cheer you on. It's fun to watch others succeed. And I'm going to be doing this exercise too. So just to recap what I said, 3 steps to achieve your year-end goals here with your mid-year review. Step 1, write down what those goals were, right? Look at what the goals were. And even if you didn't have goals, write some goals. Step 2, figure out where you are on the journey. This is where you're looking at your data, looking at your measurements of the year, looking at the percents of where things are. So you'll need to have your data. And then step 3 is that mapping out how to get from where we are to where we want to go. First, you're going to get real with yourself, assess what actions you have taken. Are there things that you could change? Are there goals that you should throw out? Are there things that are working already? You're like, check, this part of the plan is working great. These parts aren't. Then when you know that you need to make some changes and you've got to figure out ideas, do your idea soup to get all the ideas, then pick the ones that make the best sense. We can't do all the things. If we do all the things, we'll do none of them well. So pick the ones that you think are the best, most likely to work, and then tell a friend, map it out, put it on your calendar, start measuring it as you're going. Don't let yourself not look at these goals again until December and hope that you get there. If we hope for something, we won't get there. If we plan for it and we measure it, we are so much more likely to get there. I hope this helped you guys. I love goal setting. I love working with you on that. Please do send me a direct message. Let me know what your goals are for the rest of the year, because I will be cheering you on and you'll have some accountability. Thanks you guys for watching. I love this. If you're watching on YouTube, would love for you to subscribe. And if you're not yet part of our Small Business Finance Simplified Facebook group, I'd love for you to join. We'll see you next time. Thank you.